One. Welcome to the Weather Insights briefing. I'm meteorologist Scott Pitney, along with meteorologist Jeff Lindner. We are looking at the satellite image of Hurricane Milton, now a Category 3, which is kind of irrelevant because it's happening now. We're getting bands moving on to Florida's coast. They have been now for the past several hours. In fact, there's been, I believe, over 100 tornado warnings south of the eye, and that was from some earlier heavy bands that were moving across the Florida peninsula. But the winds are obviously picking up. The storm surge is and has been moving on shore, and we're looking at winds right now, I believe 120 miles per hour is what they're recording right around the eye and eye wall right now, Jeff, as a Category 3. So things are happening. Hopefully everybody has taken preparations and evacuated the mandatory evacuation areas. There's the wind field, and you can see the track history. Once again, like with Helene, the models have been very accurate with the forecast track. This thing is coming on shore. I guess 24 hours or so ago, we were talking about a landfall anywhere from 11 p.m. Wednesday night till sometime early Thursday morning. But this thing looks like it's going to be, the eye's going to be on shore in really the next few hours, Jeff.
Yeah, that's what it looks like. You can see here, this is the radar with the surface observations on top of it. You can see it's a fairly large eye. Again, the dry air and the shear has wrapped in now to the center of the hurricane, to the core of the hurricane, and it's starting to disrupt the core of the hurricane. So you're going to have a lot of activity here on the northern side of the eye wall that's going to come in. And again, it's still tracking a little bit to the left of the forecast, so a little bit to the left here. So landfall is going to be right here in the Sarasota, Bradenton, Tampa Bay area. It'll be interesting. It'll be interesting to see exactly. I mean, it'll be interesting to see what the tides do, what the water levels do in Tampa Bay, because it's such a broad center that's going to come in. Right now, the water is being blown out of Tampa Bay. You can see the wind is out of the northeast, 50, 60 miles an hour, and that's pushing the water out of Tampa Bay. But as this comes up like this, there's going to be a push of water that comes up to the coast. And so we're going to get storm surge in Tampa Bay, but I think the peak of it is going to be a little bit further south down in this area. And so you can imagine the eye is going to come up like this. Those onshore winds are going to really pile the water in this portion of the coast. So we're talking Venice, maybe down towards Fort Myers and these areas down here. We'll just have to see. This is getting a little bit further south. We'll have to see how much push we're going to get down here. We do have some tidal rise taking place right now down here a little bit further to the south. But this is Tampa Bay, and you can see what's happened in Tampa Bay today is what we call the drawdown, and this is the water being blown out of the bay. We're negative 1.5 feet right now in Tampa Bay, so the water is below normal because of that northeast wind pushing it out, and we'll see how it turns around and comes back up as the eye moves inland. You can see down at Venice now, we are seeing storm surge coming into the coast. The water is rising pretty quickly. There's not a lot of observation sites down in this area, so the next one will be all the way down at Naples. And you can see here again the water kind of shooting up now, so way up to about 2.3 feet and still rising. So we'll see, how high this gets. Again, that maximum push of storm surge is probably going to be in this area. So the Venice tide gauge here is probably going to be one to really keep an eye on, but there's just not a lot of gauging here where we could potentially see the maximum push of water. And you can kind of see on these videos and these webcams of the area, you can see we have storm surge happening. You can see there's water here at Captiva, which is down around the Fort Myers area, Sanibel Island area. Fort Myers Beach, we have water on the beach pushing in, but it's not anything that's tremendous at the moment. But the wind isn't really on shore yet, and that maximum push of water is going to come as the center moves onto the coast here later this evening.
Yeah, Jeff, is there any way to go back to that storm surge and maybe look at the East Coast, because they are getting that onshore flow, that east wind, but we also have a steeper shelf, so the storm surge doesn't come into play as much. And I'm just curious though what we're looking at over there, where we're having nothing. There's Where's that?
Well,
Yeah,
yeah, I think it's I mean, we have an east wind. Well, let's go back to the odds real quick, but we have east wind over here, but we're relatively weak. I mean, we're talking
yeah,
30 to 40,
yeah,
and it's not going to be until the center crosses and you get the really strong winds
yeah,
that's going to pile the water up here on the east coast.
yeah.
So I
So
mean,
now
we probably are getting a little water level rise, but not to the level we're going to get. And even then, half these gauges aren't working. Even then, like you said, the shelf is steep here.
yeah,
Um, and there, the east coast of Florida has a very clear barrier island, intercoastal mainland, and you're really going to stop most of the water level rise here on the barrier island, on the ocean side of the barrier island. And so we'll see how much we get over here. The biggest push is definitely going to come into this
right,
area here,
yeah,
and then up in this area as the center exits. Oh, I guess late tonight, tomorrow morning.
yeah. Yep, still expected to move across the entire peninsula in about 12 hours. There's another camera. This is out of Fort Myers. This is the Pink Shell Resort. Just see a steady wind. Of course, the water's coming in, but doesn't look too terribly bad right now. As you said, the higher wind's still offshore, so that's expected to get worse, but not looking too bad right there for now at the Pink Shell Resort there in Fort Myers. And then I think we have another camera. This is Naples. Now that is a pier I would not want to be on right now, but and that water's, boy, that's moving pretty at a pretty good clip. Can't really get a good feel of the wind. Got the one tree right there blowing, but you can sure see that water moving very rapidly. And that's, all this is just kind of in the early stages. As you said, as the eye gets closer, we get those stronger winds, that greater push, and we'll see if these structures can survive. Hopefully they will, but it's just beginning for them.
Yeah, you can see here and also on the Fort Myers camera here, you see the wind is blowing parallel to the coast.
Yep.
It's not blowing at the camera. It's not blowing onshore. And so it's when the wind turns onshore, you're going to get this push of water that's going to come in. You can the same thing here. You can't really tell which way the wind's blowing, but you can see the water's being pushed along the
Right.
coast. It's not being pushed at the coast.
Yeah.
And so we're still just, early down in these areas. The wind is still kind of from the south and maybe the south southwest. It's when it turns around and comes from the southwest as the center moves inland. That's when the big push of water is going to come, and it's just not happening quite yet. So I would say within the next 4 to 5 hours is when we're really going to see the storm surge situation get really bad here. And we're also going to see the wind. The wind field, like we talked about, the wind has broadened out.
Mhm.
You're likely going to see a lot of wind up here on the north side as this northern eye wall kind of comes through this area right here. You can see Tampa is gusting 50, 60 miles an hour, which is, stronger than anything we're getting down here in the southern side of this. And so this northern eye wall is going to be nasty as it comes in. And unfortunately, it's going to go right through the metro area of Tampa and possibly right through the metro Orlando area, maybe just a little bit south of there. So that northern eye wall means business. And I wouldn't totally rule out, we had a fairly decent tornado outbreak today with some fairly large tornadoes down through here in these spiral bands. That seems to be calming down. This dry air wrapping in
Mhm.
is really starting to choke off the rainfall. And so if you just kind of look at this, stepping back for a second, a lot of times this would be the dirty side of the hurricane over here to the east, but because this dry air is wrapping in, it's going to be this area up here to the northeast that's quote unquote the dirty side of the storm. And so we'll see. I don't think we're totally out of the woods for tornadoes, but getting to the time of day and the fact that the dry air is impinging here, I think we've probably seen the big outbreak of tornadoes, but I wouldn't rule out some additional tornadoes right along the fairly populated Florida East Coast here. You can see these supercell structures are pretty well defined here on even this radar.
Yeah. Also wanted to mention just briefly, as far as communication, of course, yeah, look at that Key West. Boy, that it almost looks like I'm looking at Helene again. Very, very similar type wave action. And well, there's somebody down there walking around. Not a good place to be right now at all. So anyway, I wanted to mention that cell phone towers will likely be going out and there'll be disruptions. And I just did it myself. I downloaded the new ISO version 18.0 where there is satellite um, connection available. So if you don't have that and you have the capabilities to change over to ISO 18.0, might want to do that. And then you just kind of pull down here. I don't know, hopefully you can see, but just kind of pull down here on your phone and you can see a little antenna on the right hand side. Just click on that antenna and then a little satellite option pops up at the bottom and you just click on that. You can test it if you want to, but from what I understand, there is satellite service available in Florida. So again, for cell phone disruption to mitigate that, you may want to download that 18.0 ISO version so that you may have satellite and have communication capabilities. Jeff, did you have anything else for this one?
No, I just say, just since we've been talking, you can barely see the outline of the pool here.
Mhm.
And I think this is at Fort Myers, and again,
Yes, yes.
the wind is still parallel to the coast, and if you look closely, you can see the water is moving along the coast here. So we're not getting the big push of water yet, and we already have water, up on the pool decks and into the pools here. So the storm surge is coming. There's going to be a very significant surge, and we're still looking at anywhere from 9 to 13 feet in this corridor right here from Tampa Bay south to just north of the Fort Myers area, and even 6 to 9 feet in Tampa Bay. So if you think about that, Helene was about 6.5 feet in Tampa Bay. So easily what we saw with potentially Helene, maybe even a couple feet higher in Tampa Bay, and that's what the center kind of coming just right toward the bay or just south of the bay. So there's going to be a push of water that kind of comes up into the bay here. But just look at I mean, you're talking 5 to 8 feet, 6 to 9 feet, anywhere from north of Tampa, Clearwater, all the way down towards the Naples area. So just a huge amount of highly populated coastline that is going to see storm surge flooding and damage that happens. And like you mentioned over here on the East Coast, 3 to 5 feet from southeast Georgia all the way down towards north of or South Cape Canaveral, Melbourne area on the Florida East Coast. And so the water is coming, the wind, if you just kind of look at the satellite, you can see the degradation of the system as it comes in. Unfortunately, the shear and dryer just hasn't been able, it just didn't get in there soon enough. I mean, we were still talking a category 5 this morning
Yeah.
at 4 a.m. And so it has weakened today, but the impact of the shear and the dryer just was, 12 hours too late. If this would have happened about 12 hours sooner, we might be talking about a different story here on the Florida West Coast. But unfortunately, it's just too close to the coast, and the weakening is just not quick enough. And the broadening of that wind field is the damage pretty much done. So even if this were to weaken down to 110 or 115 miles an hour, unfortunately, the storm surge damage was pretty much set in stone earlier as this was out over the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, hopefully everybody heeded the mandatory evacuations and the loss of life will be mitigated. But yeah, it is going to be a mess there. So hopefully those folks are going to be okay for the most part when it's all said and done. Jeff, thank you very much. Good stuff as always. Of course, keep it right here on Weather Insights YouTube. Make sure you subscribe and share our YouTube channel and turn on those notifications. Also, check out our Weather Insights blog. Jeff, thanks again.